Welcome and good morning. I'm just trying out a new piece of software for some screencasting. I've been meaning to try this one out for a little while now. So what I intend to do on this particular one is look at quizzes and item bank. I had a couple of questions really over the last couple of weeks. How do we set up quizzes? And while I sit there and go through that with them at times, like what I'm going to do with this video is really to show you probably best practice, or what I regard as best practice when you set up a quiz. Whilst you can in Canvas just as a quiz, you're better off really setting them up as an item bank first, or using an item bank first. You see item banks here and you see quizzes down the bottom here. So they could well be different locations along there. They might be together like mine are. So my advice, before you even contemplate building your quiz, build your item bank first. So what we'll do, we'll go into item banks and we'll have a look to see what that's about. So clicking on item banks, you see a screen that looks like this, and you get a filter. By default, it's got this course, and there are another 3 on there as well: shared with me, institution banks, and shared with courses. Now, most of the time what you find, the item banks that are shared with you are going to sit in shared with me. Now this particular one, I've got a fair few item banks down the list here. Now what I want to draw your attention to is poorly named item banks and good named item banks. Please get in the habit at this point of naming your item banks in a way that's much more helpful to you than having us something like these ones up here, and be able to use them or use multiple ones in quizzes. So if we look further down the page, what we'll find a group of item banks that I've created for various different people, and I've named them in what I would consider to be a pretty good naming, pretty good naming convention in there. So we've got for Anglian Ruskin Peterborough, we've got a module code, we've got what period it was being taught, and we've got the subject of the questions that are in them. Now it could well be that we have a academic year identifier on the front of those as well. So if I just scroll up a bit, I've got an example of those. We've got a few there, look, 2025, 23, 21, 23s and 22s. These ones down here haven't got a year on them, but they're pretty good in that maybe they don't need to have an academic year identifier on them, because those just get rolled and used per year. It could well be that that yearly academic identifier is something that identifies to you when the item bank was first created. So maybe something like that. So just get in the habit that when you create an item bank, you create it with a good name for yourself. You will do yourself a world of favors by doing that. Now at the top of the item banks page, what you'll find the button there that says bank. So it's the button there to add an item bank for yourself. So if we click on that, what we get is a way to enter your bank name. So this is where you're going to put your named bank, and it's going to be a blank one when you first start off. So we're going to name it something like 2025 Her Green Thumb Botany. Lesson 1. Okay. And then what we're going to do, we're going to create that bank. Now it sits then in your list of item banks. Now this is quite easy to find because it's appeared at the top. So if we wanted to find that, all we do is we search for that. And we know it's herb. So let's go herb green thumb. There we go. So it's found that one item bank in there. No questions because we've just created it right at that second there. And yeah, it's all ready to be set up. Now there's a few buttons on the side. One says duplicate. So it might well be that you might want to duplicate that item bank and then change the year identifier. And then you know that anything prior to those two changes, you've got an old set and you've got a new set, so maybe you want to change it that way. Now Canvas will do some things to item banks if you deal with one item bank in one quiz and then deal with it again later, but have a change in the question. So it will do things along the lines of using the old question and not changing that at all for the old quiz you set up, but it will reflect the changes for students that are doing new quizzes beyond that point. You've got another one there that's share this bank. Now if we click on share, you get a list here, or you have the potential to put a name or an login ID there, and then you've got a couple of access permission levels, if you like, viewing and edit. So if you allow them to view, they can see in the list here, so going down in when you filter for it, and they can't change any of your questions. And this one here just allows them to do exactly the same, but they can change the questions. So be careful with edit. If you choose to put someone in with edit permissions, they can even remove you as somebody that's got permissions for that question, that item bank. So be mindful of that. If you give them edit permissions, they can't just change your questions, they could also kick you off the item bank. So just bear that in mind, right? So let's see what happens when you go into an item bank itself. So let's go into our Herb Green Thumbs Lesson 1 item bank, and you'll see we've got no questions just yet. We can share this item bank with a course, and you would see that then in that filter for the course, but let's not worry about that. We've got access to that one. So let's go new. And then what we get is we get a selection of question types we can add into the item bank. So what we're looking to do at this particular point is collect various questions up in our item bank, so we can use them over and over again, and for different reasons. Maybe it may well be that what we do at the end of a 12-week block, we consolidate each lesson question bank and create one quiz with 3 questions out of each item bank at the end. So we end up with a bigger quiz, right? So let's look now at getting some questions in our item banks. So how can we find those questions, right? So it could well be that you trawl the internet and find those questions one by one, and maybe they're multiple choice questions or true or false questions, or even open-ended ones. But we could also use something like ChatGPT to generate those questions. So let's look at ChatGPT. So here's ChatGPT now. What I've done within ChatGPT, I've given ChatGPT a prompt to create an item bank with questions for Herb Green Thumbs Canvas LMS course. It should contain 10 questions on horticulture and botany at level 4. So then Mr. ChatGPT generated me 10 questions on just that. And it creates something along the lines of this. Look, so it's created me a different question types. So it's got a list of multiple choice questions here. So we've got a few questions like so, and we've got some short answers there, where if you were to put them into a quiz, you would have to mark that yourself. So maybe not the best if you want just some sort of quiz just to test knowledge. You kind of want to work for you, but if you don't mind doing that, then yeah, they're quite adequate in a quiz. You've got some true or false questions there, and you've got some fill in the blanks ones, right? And then I went a little bit further as it goes, and I asked it to create me exactly the same again, but at level 5, and it basically just replicated that. Now, I'm not a horticulture and botany expert by all means, so I have no idea if the levels are right for level 4 and 5 in these. It's really just to give you an example of the types of questions that you could add into an item bank. So we go back to our item bank, and we are simply just copy and pasting these sets into each of our questions, so we generate an item bank. So that's basically what I'm going to do now. So back in item banks, now what we're looking to do is we're looking to paste the question that's going to be shown to the students in here, and then we're going to put the question title in there, and that's what you see. They don't see that one. I tend to put the same thing in both of these if the question is short. If they were longer, or we had place for images or links or YouTube videos or anything that makes that a bit longer and a bit more in depth, then I would then make a summary of that, that on there. but in this instance, it makes sense for them both to be the same. The answer to that particular question is false there. Now what we can do also in a question is we can give feedback to any that are correct, any that are incorrect, or any that maybe have general feedback. That's what I'm going to do in this one, because I've got a little bit more from ChatGPT in this regards. So I'm just going to place that in this general one. So this is what ChatGPT gave me on that one you saw just a minute ago, and I would just consider that done. You'll notice that I have no facility to put points to that. Now I'll deal with the points situation when we build quizzes. So this is really just to build item banks, and in the next video what we'll deal with the actual quiz itself and what we do with these. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 2 item banks that you've seen already, and then we'll use those ones going forward. So in the next video we're going to look at how to deal with the item banks inside quizzes. So your job before we go to the next video is really to look at item banks and start to build those item banks. So if you want to follow me through in the next video, create your item banks, create some questions within them, and then you'll be able to follow me along. If not, that's cool. Just know that at some point you're going to have to build the item banks anyway. So just start to get in the mode of understanding how item banks work, and then we'll deal with that in a minute. So hope you enjoyed that. Like, subscribe, and all the rest of it, and then we'll deal with quizzes in a minute. Okay, see you soon. Thank you. Bye.